So I want you to start standing up today. So in Thursday beginners class, lately we've been shifting our strategies of how we're working. And for today, I want you to acknowledge when we're sitting, we're in a sort of flexed hip position. And for those of you that are tight in the front of your hips, tight in your hamstrings and lower back, it can sometimes lead to like a really scooped under position and then a really compromised position everywhere else further up. So when standing, you can get a better feel for a neutral pelvis where you're neither scooped under nor sticking your butt out, but feeling for your sit bones, the bottom of your pelvis, reaching downwards to engage the low buttocks and then bringing the arms down by the sides. Endeavour to spin the palms forwards, so we're creating a little bit of that outward rotation. Press into the feet, toes lifting and spreading, and then lift your head. It should look like you're awaiting the rapture. That's the kind of energetic. And then close your eyes. Start to deepen your breath. So in this position with your feet active, the toes lifting and spreading, the thighs are active and sit bones pointing down, your aim is to get your rib cage and your abdomen moving. It can be useful to take a little bit of movement side to side, so shifting the weight side to side, either keeping the pelvis still or letting the pelvis move, but also forwards and back, and just getting a feel for being genuinely physically centered. Now, as you deepen your breath, I want you to begin to highlight any areas that need your attention specifically today. Maybe they feel a little bit tight and grumpy. Maybe there are areas that just need to be woken up a little bit. And commit to working this class in a way that facilitates all of that. All right, blink your eyes open. Grabbing your roll or your block, you're going to put it to your inner thighs. If you're using the block, you're going to have it not on the narrow setting, but on a medium setting, and as high up the inner thighs as possible. So it allows you to maintain this parallel thigh position. If you've stepped your feet wider, you want to see if you can get your heels underneath your hips, and a little bend in the knees will help you with the tracking of the knees forwards. Do just enough tuck tailbone down, so this action of pulling the pelvis down a little bit until you feel that same action of sit bones pointing down, and the inner thighs should feel way more attentive with that squeeze. Spin the palms so they face forwards and close the eyes. So we've changed the physical sensation and now are changing the breath format. So doing an inhale for 10, holding the breath for 10, and exhaling for 10. My pregnancy option is inhale for 10, slight pause, exhale for 10, slight pause. You're doing Shivananda breathing, alternate instead of the holding of the breath. So you don't need me to help you count to 10, I hope. So begin doing that inhale for 10, hold for 10, and exhale for 10. If during the holding of the breath for the count of 10, you start to feel a rise of anxiety or you need more air, sip in through the mouth a little more air and see if that quells the rise of panic or the rise of anxiety that can come from doing breath retention work. That can be really useful. Stay connected to active feet and see if you can relax your shoulders down a little bit more. So you're doing 2 rounds of this breath. Pregnancy, do 3 rounds. That will bring our count into sync with one another. Now, active feet is usually one of the first things to go. Really focus on that. So if you've been doing class with me for a while, you will really feel the difference between poses that have active feet and poses where it's switched off. It almost feels from the knee down like, well, there's nothing happening, because I guess there's nothing happening. When you are finished, simply remove the block or the roll from your inner thighs and set it down. If you've got easy access to a wall, you can work this next pose at the wall. If you do not have easy access to the wall, you can work this in the center. Our aim is just to fire your legs up a little bit more. If you're still going with the pranayama, after this exhalation, you're finishing up. So you're either coming into chair facing the wall or chair in the center. So chair facing the wall looks like this. Hands are on the wall, very slight angle, and then bending the legs. So sticking the butt out. Again, this would be if you ended up joining this class partway through. This is an interesting start. So some of you might be there. Some of you will be working chair in the center. So you're reaching the arms up and aiming not to be in a curled under position. So I see a lot of this pose being taught. I'm interested in you feeling for a neutral pelvis and the arms reaching up. I like the wall one for good support. So either in the center or at the wall, hands are about shoulder distance apart, feet are hip distance apart. Bend the legs, sticking your butt out, and feel for scooping your chest out. Wall people, tuck your chin and lean the back of your skull back. Feel for shifting the weight towards your heels and play with where can you bend the legs to where it feels vibrant. So in general, in a beginner yoga class, our aim is to switch on areas that we haven't switched on in a while, and to do a bit of movement, introducing you to concepts that we would then develop later in other sessions. If you're no longer a beginner and an intermediate, you can bring even more sophisticated levels of attention to the poses, meaning a beginner's class is just a class. It always baffles me when we have people who are like, oh, I don't do beginner classes because I'm not a beginner. You don't need to be. You're still bending your legs, you're still working your legs. It doesn't get any easier. All right, inhale, straighten your legs, bring yourself up. Your next pose is called shower on the wall. Some people, if you've got really tight shoulders, might find the straight arm version doesn't feel so great. So you can go for hands clasped and elbows on the wall, but the distance is obviously minus the distance of your forearm. So shower on the wall is similar to chair, except it's more like downward facing dog. The elbows are wrapping, so shoulder blades wrap, elbows point down and hanging the chest down, letting the neck relax. Alternatively, shoulder injured, you can do this with the elbows on the wall. So find a wall, you do need a wall for this. If you don't have a wall but you have the edge of a couch, do this kneeling with the hands on the couch. Aim to get the torso and leg angle bent at about 90 degrees. If your low back is punky or just tight today, take the hands a bit further up. Now look at the hands if you're working with the hands. Index finger is pointing up. Spin your elbow bones towards the ground. Exhale, hinge at the hips and aim to stick your butt out. Once you feel that wrap in the shoulders, aiming to feel the underarm muscles firing up, then let the neck relax down. If it feels like it's a lot on the shoulders or on the wrists, clasp the hands, set the elbows and forearms onto the wall, and allow the chest to come down that way. If you are tighter in your lower back, simply work with bent legs. Pregnancy option, if your abdomen is on your legs, it's not a massive problem, but you might find you get a greater hinge with the feet a wee bit further apart than narrow. Actually, the same goes for all of you with that. So it can be a really useful way of changing the base in the pose. Now stay here, but exhale through the mouth until you're empty and then hold your breath for a moment. Super slowly inhale, stretch your ribcage towards the wall, but don't let your pelvis lean towards the wall. Exhale, pull belly muscles in and stick your butt out. Inhale, bring yourself up. Ideally, you're doing this with your butt and your shoulders against the wall. Feet will be a wee bit away from the wall. Move this bolster. So you can lean against the wall for this. If you don't have easy access to a wall or you don't have a huge amount of space, then work this on your yoga mat with the feet about 3 feet apart. So if you've done beginner classes with me before, you'll know in Forrest yoga we do a lot of side bend and neck release. I find standing a great way to work this because you're more able to control and arbitrate where your pelvis is while staying connected to the strength of your legs. So as you do this, I want you to find a bit of balance between strength and softness as you do this. So strength, the leg muscles are firing, but softness, so you're not braced in a curled under position, you're able to maintain a neutral pelvis. Inhale, bring the left arm up. Lift your left ribs. Exhale, lean to the left and then bring your hand onto your thigh bone, so the upper part of your thigh. Use that hand to brace to create space on the left ribs. Inhale, bring the right arm up and over. Exhale, wrap right shoulder blade towards the underarm and relax left ear towards your left shoulder. Take care, as your pelvis shoved to the right, feel for the even weight distribution through both feet. Inhale, lift the right side ribs up. Exhale, wrap right shoulder blade towards the underarm, strong pulling in of the abdominal muscles. So get to feel, have you gone into a really strong pelvis curled under position? Can you do neutral pelvis? I like to think you could almost be able to, with a real calligraphy style, sign your name with your pelvis in these positions. That's what I'm doing, in case you wonder if I'm just having a wee groove by myself. Always. Second arm position. Exhale, reach the right arm to the right and have the hand so it's lower than the shoulder. Inhale, lift up through your ribs, even lifting up through your abdomen, that telescope up sensation. Exhale, relax left ear towards left shoulder, and maintain a fair amount of reach through that right arm. Some of you will play with changing the angle, maybe chin down or even chin up. But aiming to stretch wherever it needs it in the right side of the neck. And remember I said, active feet's usually the first thing to go. Press down through the inner ankles, especially if you know that your ankle joints are very mobile. Working with your neck relaxed, inhale to reach with that right hand, use the left hand on the side of your head, and then lift your head up. Instead of going straight into the other side, we're going to do a slightly different pose. So my wall people, you need to move your feet about 30 centimeters away from the wall, but keep your butt on the wall. If you're in the center, bend your legs and bring your forearms onto your thigh. If you're at the wall, your butt is still on the wall. Inhale, scoop your chest forwards. Exhale, stick your butt up towards the ceiling and bring the arms down. So again, I prefer this to a cross-legged forward bend, allowing the neck and shoulders to relax. If you're bracing with your hands, I recommend bending your arms more and allowing the chest to rest down. Anytime you arrive in a pose and are wondering what next, do deep breathing. That is the real what's next. And especially if you're kind of near the start of your yoga journey, a lot of the things you do in a beginner's class, they don't necessarily get way more advanced, but we almost assume a greater level of sophistication and attention. That's all. That's not to mean that there aren't advanced poses out there, like putting your feet behind your head and jumping about like a fool. We do have that still. Just not today. We're choosing not to do it today. Shift the weight towards your heels, bring your forearms back onto your legs, scoop your chest up and set the hips down, then push down with your legs to stand up, just so you're not rolling up through your lower back. Take the hips for a wee bit of a test drive. So you have second side to do. Inhale, bring the right arm up. If you're at the wall, scuttle back towards the wall. Exhale, lean to the right without hinging in the hips, so it's not triangle. Bring the hand into the hip, so the widest, boniest part of your thigh, so thigh bone, we'll call it hip. Lift the right ribs up. Inhale, bring that left arm up and over. Exhale, wrap left shoulder blade towards the underarm and reach out through that left side. Power down through both feet. Inhale, lift left ribs. Exhale, wrap left shoulder blade towards the underarm and soften your neck. Reconnect to active feet. And then focus on expanding your breathing in a way that speaks to left side low belly. I keep mixing up my left and my right. Second arm position. Exhale, reach that left hand to the left and down so it is just a little bit lower than your shoulders and reach actively with it. Inhale, press into your feet and feel how that creates a ripple cascade of lifting up through the ribcage. Exhale, relax right ear to right shoulder, feeling for where you can relax in the neck here. So this side may require a different positioning. I feel like it can be really tempting if you're starting out at yoga that everything has to be exactly the same from left to right. I think the more you do yoga, the more you realize A, that's not going to happen, and B, it was never happening anyway. So acknowledge where needs the stretch right now, and be prepared to give that area the stretch that it requires. Alright, now coming up with a relaxed neck, inhale to reach with that left arm, use the right hand on the side of your head, and then lift your head up. Wall people, you're going to be a little bit further away from the wall for this. I'm going to turn side on just so you can see. We're still doing a straddle forward bend, but you have the option of coming into a different shoulder position. Here are the options. If it feels like a neck tricky day for you today, then you're clasping the hands around the neck, not the head, bringing the elbows in and reaching the elbows down. So it feels like a neck brace that's been set too tight. So that may be a good option. Shoulder, if you're going after shoulders, hands are clasping and bringing the arms overhead. And you'll notice my arms aren't straight. As soon as I straighten my arms, they kind of hyperextend and I can't control the pose anymore. I want to see arms a little bit bent, ideally palms together and shoulder blades squeezing back. So it's active rather than passive and loosey-goosey. So choices. The second one will demand a lot more of your strength. So setting up, feet about 3 feet apart, feet parallel, bend the legs, bring the forearms onto the legs. Decide whether it's a chest opener or a neck traction kind of day. Neck traction, clasp the hands around the neck, elbows touch under the chin, if possible. Otherwise, clasp the hands at low back. Clasp hands, people, squeeze your shoulder blades back and then start to take the arms over and relax your neck down. So working chest opener, forward bend, or neck traction, forward bend. Whichever one you're doing, if you feel like you're really rounded in your back, bend your knees more and focus on sticking your butt out. This is getting the articulation and pelvis of sit bones existing about here and moving them up so you genuinely stretch your hamstrings. If both of those shoulder options feel too spicy, go for hands down. It's still early. You know, we're only just starting out. Imagine if you were doing these poses as seated poses. This would be like a cross-legged forward bend. It might not go very far either. Shift the weight towards your heels. If you've got your hands holding your neck or your hands, let them go. Bring your forearms or hands back onto your legs. Press with your feet and lift yourself up. Now, wall people, you're going to come away from the wall. It's not going to give you the support in this next pose. From the stance you were in before, shorten it a smidge so the feet are still wider than hips and wider than the shoulders. Toes are pointing straight ahead. Bend the knees, but feel for getting the knees over your heels. So there's going to be a bit of torque in the knees, and simply bring yourself down. Make a fist with one hand, it doesn't matter which, and brace. So you're sitting down into this. So this, for my knee tweaky people, is good knee strengthening. Now, instead of doing this one, where we've kind of been today, I want you to think that you're sitting down into this, but keeping your shoulders a little bit more over your hips. Now you can see I'm not in a curled under position. I'm actually very slightly sticking my butt out as I lower down. It should start to feel pretty ferocious. So press into your feet, work active feet. Inhale, push with your feet, bring yourself up. Okay, so that was our parallel one. Turn the feet out. Feel for actively rotating the thighs and then bend the legs. This one is easier to keep the shoulders above the hips as if you were sliding down a wall. Now the feet action, press into your heels about 70% spread through both, 30% through the ball of the foot, toes are lifting, thighs are rotating back and reaching the thigh bones away from pelvis. Untuck your tailbone and see if that gives you a little bit more depth. If your legs are shaking, that's very exciting. Just think what else you might have to do to get your legs quivering like that. All right, now inhale, press through your legs to bring yourself up to standing. They should feel somewhat cooked. I hope. Okay, how about we seat? So that stuff has given you an opportunity to speak to this like forward back action in your pelvis without any tension in the lower back. So especially if you know that poses like side bend and neck release seated feel really rounded for you. Standing is a great way to do this. As we start moving into bearing weight in a different way and using the legs, the hip joints need to be warmed up. And so far we haven't challenged them massively. So in this next thing, there's going to be 3 different levels. And I want you to choose sensibly. This is the good thing about repeating a practice. I've had people messaging me like, I've already done that class. Okay, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. So with this, repetition is key. You're never gonna do a class and be like, I'm done with yoga, full stop, the end. So this hip mobility, if I lean back to here, about a 45-degree angle, I'm in a flexed position with my hips, but it's pretty gentle, and I'm not loading weight into my hips, and it will allow me a good range of movement. This angle is a lot steeper, so I feel a little bit more through the musculature at the top of the thigh. So that is option number 2. So some of you will manage that easily. Option number 4 requires option number 4, I cannot count. Option number 3, people, you are lifting through your lower spine and taking that action side to side, but it requires a lot more savvy in your core to be upright and to support that. So be honest, maybe you'll do that later on today and not right now. So from where you are, take the feet so they're in front of you, legs are bent about 90 degrees. Take them so they're about 45 degrees each, and then use your hands behind you. Now it's up to you. 45 degree lean is a little further back, really good to create a back brace. Hands can be a little bit closer, so maybe you're getting close to like, I don't know, like a 70 degree angle. Some of you will bring the hands together at chest just to keep them busy. Deep breath in. Exhale, send both knees to the left. Allow that right sit bone to come up and turn your chest to the left. Squeeze the shoulder blades back. Inhale, bring the knees through center, aiming to move really smoothly. Exhale, send the knees to the right. Hands are coming around, turning the chest. Inhale, bring the knees up through center. Exhale, send legs left, turning the chest left. Inhale, bring yourself through center. So we're just creating this gentle inward, outward action with the legs. Exhale, turn to the right. Inhale through center. Now, if you're at that 45 degree angle, exhale, go left. You kind of need to push off your hands a little bit and maybe you can get your hands either side of the leg. Stronger day, wherever you are, squeeze your shoulder blades back so you get that extra postural engagement. Inhale, hands come down, walking the hands back around through center. Exhale, take the arms over to the right, maybe squeezing the shoulder blades back so you're getting that, again, postural support. Inhale, release the arms down, bring your knees to center and pause. Take a deep breath in. Now for this, you're going to keep your sit bones down. The same deal applies at stage 1, 2 or 3 leveling. Some of you might be able to manage doing this here, but it's very challenging. Exhale, turn your left knee in, but do not lift your sit bone. Inhale, bring the knee back up through center. Exhale, rotate left knee in. If the knee is feeling a little bit punky, you'll probably have to widen the angle. Exhale, rotate left knee in. Inhale, up. Exhale, rotate right knee in. Inhale, lift. Exhale, rotate in. Inhale, lift. Exhale, rotate that knee in. Inhale, up. Now this time, exhale, rotate both outwards. Inhale, up. Exhale, rotate out. Inhale, up. Last one. Exhale, rotate. Inhale, out. Okay, bring the legs back in. Just giving them a little bit of a test drive, so a little bit of a cross-legged shimmy. For your next abdominal, you're going to get this shoulder blade retraction. So take the arms forwards, head is lifted. If you were doing this pose on all fours, one of the first postural things that I tend to see is a dropped head. And you can see in a seated position, that's hardly an optimal position. So when you're on all fours, take the opportunity to build the awareness there, build the strength in the muscles that will develop your posture by not dropping your head. In Forrest Yoga, we have this concept of relaxed neck, but note that that doesn't mean drop your head constantly and create further postural issues. You just need to kind of think about it a little. All right, so arms are forwards, deep breath in. Exhale, draw your left shoulder blade back without bending the arm. Inhale, reach forwards. Exhale, draw your right shoulder blade back. Inhale, reach forwards. Now, abdominal muscles, very slightly stick your butt out. Firm the abdomen, take the arms forwards, do not move your abdomen. Exhale, left arm back. Inhale, reach forwards, head up. Exhale, right arm draws back. Inhale, reach it forwards. So that is the premise on all fours. Okay, come on to all fours. Wrist sensitive, turn your hands out or simply don't have the weight directly over your wrists. In this, I'm just going to tuck my t-shirt in. While we're working here, if you feel the desire to tuck your tailbone, you are moving from your lower back flexibility. I want you to keep your spine pretty much neutral, lifting between the shoulders, looking forward and tucking the chin. Deep breath in. Exhale, lift the right hand, the left knee. Inhale, set those down. So remember side to side action, we're trying to minimize that. Exhale, lift left hand, right knee. Inhale, gently set down. Exhale, lift right hand, left knee. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift left hand, right knee. Inhale, lower. Exhale, lift right hand, left knee. Inhale, set that down. Exhale, lift left hand, right knee. Inhale, set that down. 2 more per side. Exhale, lift right hand, left leg, setting everything down very slowly. Inhale, release. Exhale, lift left hand, right knee. Inhale, set down, pause. Before we do the last round, re-lift between your shoulder blades, stick your butt out, deep breath in. Exhale, lift right hand, left knee, hold. Take another full breath cycle here. Exhale, release the hands down. It gets more challenging the longer you're there. Deep breath in. Exhale, lift left hand, right knee, pause. Take another full inhalation. Exhale, release the hand and the knee down. Okay, sit up from there. If you can't sit kneeling because of any knee issues, either sit on the block or switch to cross-legged. Shoulder shrugs. Take a deep breath in. Hold your breath, bring your shoulders straight up, straight back, squeeze them. Exhale, drag your shoulders down away from your ears. Inhale, spread in between your shoulders. Exhale, squeeze the middle, shoulders back, drag shoulders down. Inhale, spread into the back, this time palms are facing up. Exhale, squeeze your shoulder blades and your elbows towards each other, pull your shoulders down. Inhale to relax your arms down. You're coming into dolphin prelude next. The knees are going to be wide for this and the elbows in front of the shoulders. So come onto all fours. Take your knees as wide as your yoga mat, unless you've got a really, really wide yoga mat. Come down onto your elbows. So elbows under shoulders is the start position, but it is not the end position. Take your left arm forward, so it's almost at your wrist, the right wrist, and then bring the other arm forwards. Aiming to keep the pelvis above the knees here, palms are together. Set your forehead down in between your arms and snuggle the arms in. Exhale. Point your pelvis towards the back of the room so the chest is sinking down towards the ground. Perhaps bending the arms to get into the triceps and underarms a little bit more. For some of you, if it feels too much in the shoulders, simply release the hands down. If it's really shouldery, go for hands about shoulder distance apart and then coming down onto the forehead or onto the chin. So slightly different pose, but it may feel like the more accessible option. This pose really gets switched on by deep breathing. So thinking about how into your armpit there is all those different ribs that are fanning around, really enmeshed in muscle. This is going to get that stuff moving. I certainly hope. Alright, dolphin preludes. Release your forearms back down if you had them lifted. Bring your shoulders over your elbows and then wriggle on up from there. It is not the most glamorous exit. You're coming down onto your back for elbow to knee. For elbow to knee, the pregnancy option, I'm going to show you this just now. So this elbow to knee will be hands clasped. Deep breath in. Exhale, lifting the left knee. Left hand to knee, pushing the hand into the knee. Inhaling, put that down. Exhale, tucking the tailbone, lifting the right knee, pushing the hand into the knee and the knee into the hand. Actually, you could probably do it without your hand behind your head. So you're creating that tension to help build into the hip flexion and into the lower abdominal. Zero holding of the breath. Otherwise, elbow to knee, you're working either with your knees up for today or with the feet resting on the floor, reaching the elbows in the direction of the knee as you follow the breath cues. Or if your knees are up, you are extending the opposite leg. That requires a little bit more savvy in the lower back, especially if you feel when you extend the leg that it's pulling your pelvis to the front of the mat. The leg is probably, first off, too low, or maybe you need to work with it straighter up towards the ceiling to stop the pelvis from tipping over. Your aim is to maintain a very slight tuck tailbone up position. All right, come down onto your back. Interlace your fingers behind your head. Decide whether it's a feet on the ground kind of a day or a legs up kind of day. Feet down, people, you're doing the elbow to knee but without the leg extension. Inhale, lift the head and shoulders up. Unless you're doing the pregnancy option, hold the breath, curl tailbone up. Exhale, reach elbows towards the left leg, right leg extends, squeeze the muscles around your lower buttocks, whichever stage you're doing, pull belly down. Inhale, bend leg, shoulders up. Hold the breath, curl tailbone up. Exhale, reach elbows to the right leg, left leg straightens, pull belly down. Inhale, bend legs. Hold your breath, curl tailbone up. Exhale, reach elbows left, right leg straightens, pressing out through the ball of the foot, belly down. Inhale, bend legs. Hold your breath in, curl tailbone up. Exhale, elbows to right leg, left leg straightens, pull belly down. Inhale, bend legs. Hold your breath in, curl tailbone up. Exhale, elbows to left leg, right leg straightens, squeeze low buttock muscles, belly down. Inhale, bend legs. Hold your breath, curl tailbone up. Exhale, elbows to right leg, left leg straightens, pull belly down. Inhale, bend legs, head down, feet down. Roll onto your left hand side and then use your arms to come up from the ground. Be in a seated or kneeling position and then bring the arms up. So your aim is elbows in line with shoulders, but forearms parallel to one another. All right, take a deep breath in. Exhale, draw your shoulder blades back, shoulder blades down. Inhale, reach the elbows forwards. Exhale, squeeze elbows in. So recall the work we did earlier in dolphin on the wall or the shower on the wall, the down dog one. Elbows are squeezing in, forearms parallel. Imagine you were holding something between your elbows like a family-sized veggie haggis and squeeze those elbows in. You're going to cook it with your 34-degree inner elbow heat. Inhale, release your arms down. So that action of reaching out, of spreading between the shoulders, getting into protracted place and engaging the musculature here is the basis of dolphin. And here's the way I want you or would like you to work dolphin. If you feel in dolphin that you have been there for 3 breaths, for example, and then you lose the ability to protract and then you lose the wrap on the shoulder, then put your knees down. Re-wrap it and see if you can come back in. And maybe you're in for 1 breath and then you're down. You still have gotten 1 breath with a really good level of support rather than being in a pose that is collapsed and continuing to finance that with deep breathing just for the sake of keeping up. This is a really great time where virtually we're no longer competing with anyone else on the mat, and I know that it happens. So I want you to feel, if you lose the ability to create the same amount of support as breath 1, put the knees down, give it a sec, come back in and see if you can recreate the support. I think that's a way better way to work. Okay, come down onto your elbows, grab your upper arms to measure the distance apart for the elbows, and then clasp the hands, or if it's a more flexible day for the shoulders, go for forearms parallel. Just remember to pop your elbows back up and put them back down again just so the skin gets stuck. Exhale, draw your shoulder blades back, slide them down away from your ears so they're in a depressed position. Inhale, lift between your shoulder blades, so you're protracting the shoulder blades. Squeeze the elbows towards each other, feeling your armpits and your chest muscles igniting. Tuck the chin a little to lengthen the neck, and then tuck toes, lifting the knees up. Inhale, lift the ribcage away from your arms. Exhale, bear down into your forearms, your wrists, or the pinkies if you've got the hands clasped. If you're tight in the back of the legs, go ahead and bend your legs here. So if you've already tapped down, give yourself a second and then do that same setup of shoulders back, shoulders down, lifting between the shoulders and then coming back in. You might find a gradual reset of that gives you the ability to develop the strength here. And it's very useful, but it's also very alien. You don't really do these movements in the day, nor at night. All right, wherever you are, inhale, set your knees down, and then bring yourself up from there. Okay, we're coming back down onto the back for another abdominal. Pregnancy option, head is down, feet can be down or knees above hips, doing tuck tailbone up, squeeze block, so the abdominals with the block. Everybody else, you're doing a lifting action with the head and neck. So either the block or the roll. I'm going to use the roll for some variety just now. Following that up with bridge pose, with the feet down, but keeping the props at the inner thighs. Anytime you're doing bridge pose in your own practice, if you're not doing it in class with us, I recommend you put something at the inner thighs you're not going to lose out by having a greater awareness and greater ability to control what's happening at your inner thighs. You ain't going to lose out, so you may as well do it. Okay, come on down. Put roll or block to the inner thighs. Either legs can be straight up or legs bent 90 degrees. When I do this one, I feel the exact same weight as when my legs are up. So I actually like to bring my knees above my abdomen, and it means less pressure on the lower back. So that may be a good shout for you. Alternatively, feet are resting on the floor, so long as you're not using your feet to lift your pelvis. All right, clasp the hands behind the head, elbows point up, pregnancy option. You can clasp hands behind the head and do the unlocking of the shoulders, but focus on the action of the pelvis and the inner thighs. Deep breath in. Hold your breath, curl the tailbone up, squeeze the roll. Exhale, lift head and shoulders up, pull belly down. Inhale, lay head down. Hold your breath, curl tailbone up, squeeze block. Exhale, lift head and shoulders up, pull belly down. Inhale, lay your head down. Hold your breath, curl tailbone up, squeeze block. Exhale, lift your head and shoulders up, pull the belly down. Inhale, lay head down. Hold your breath, curl tailbone up, squeeze that block. Exhale, lift head and shoulders up, pull abdomen down. Inhale, lay head down. Hold your breath, curl tailbone up, squeeze block. Exhale, lift head and shoulders up, pull belly down. Inhale, head down, then set your feet down, getting ready for bridge. For bridge, heels are underneath your knees, shoulders down away from your ears, palms face up. Take a very deep breath. Exhale, press into active feet, curling the tailbone up, squeeze the roll or the block, and lift the hips up. If you are comfortable to, take your fingertips onto the breastbone, so you're aiming for almost like the low breastbone. Inhale, lift this section of your ribs away from the ground and towards your chin, but relax your shoulders. Ooh. So the hands are there so you can feel tangibly, did you lift through that area or not? Maybe it didn't work. Arms can be down by your sides or up overhead if that feels better for your shoulders. I find my shoulders get really tight, especially towards the end of the week, and arms overhead allows me access into the mid to upper back range. If you are looking for a hands-on assist that we would give you in the studio, if you take your fingertips to where your skull meets your spine and gently pull towards the back of your mat, you get this little neck traction which can feel really exquisite. It's usually the one in the studio that people will be purring. Inhale, connect into active feet, toes lifting, toes spreading. Exhale, slightly dial up that work on the inner thighs and squeeze your low buttocks towards the roll or the block. So sit bone region is active. Take another deep breath where you are. Exhale, lower through your shoulders, your mid back, your low back, and then your pelvis. Remove the roll or the block. Roll onto your left hand side. Use your arms to come up from the ground. And then use your left hand on the side of your head to lift your head up so you're not straining your neck muscles. Now, the next pose is a pose which is bothersome for a lot of people, but is very essential if we're looking to get into things. So I'm going to show you like one way of doing it. If you've got knee stuff going on, the aim is to get into the quadricep, not necessarily get into a lunge. So I would rather see you do a standing version that gets the quadricep stretch rather than trying to navigate the complexities of being on the ground. So we shall see. So the options are a 90 degree lunge. So my foot is underneath my knee, hands are underneath, and either twisting and reaching the opposite arm back to bring the heel in towards the butt. So that might be an access way for you to get into that with a little twist. Some of you will do it further up, bending the leg and bringing the heel in. It might look further away initially. If that is going to be problematic for the knee or bearing weight on the knee is a problem, then it is standing, bringing the heel towards the butt with a flexed foot. Knees are alongside each other and doing a strong tuck tailbone down. And that will get into the quadriceps. So the lunge isn't important, we're going after quad stretch. So if you're standing, stand and have your left hand and left hip near the wall, bring the right heel to your butt. If you are lunging, you can either reach your left hand back for that lunge, doing a strong tuck of tailbone down, or more upright, right hand is reaching back. Either way, right heel is coming in towards your butt. Whichever stage you're doing, do that action of tucking your tailbone down. If you don't speak to your tailbone, maybe you speak to your pubic bone, lift the pubic bone up. So a slightly different action. The lunge heel to butt does come with its own innate complexities around balance, so just be aware of that. Falling over isn't a sign that you're terrible at yoga, it's just about calculating the base. Now wherever you are, whether you're, well actually whichever stage, focus on lifting the ribs away from pelvis. Adding more tucked tailbone will give you more stretch into the front of that right leg. Wherever you are, feel for the right thigh bone pulling forwards, but don't let it move. Okay, release that leg, change sides. Now if you've got an issue on the knee on one side, feel free to do something different on this side. Maybe this is the side you stand up on. It could be you've like scuffed your knee from excessive wild gardening, I don't know. So in the yoga studio, like the #1 injury that we get is people gardening. It's dangerous. It's slow, but it's dangerous. So in this lunge heel to butt, left heel is coming in. Endeavor to tuck your tailbone down. Some of you might get different points by lowering the hips down a wee bit. If you are standing, you want to think that your left knee and right knee are in line. Tailbone is tucking down and flexing the foot. So there's a real activity in that left leg. If it's helpful for you and it can add an extra sensation, lift through the pubic bone. So it's not the same as tucking your tailbone down, so you're recruiting a slightly different set of muscles, but it can be a useful addition. All right, lunging people, come up. Now, we're going to be using the wall for this. Some of you, if you don't have easy access to a wall, will use a block for this and it will create a similar sensation. We're moving from pyramid into triangle. Normally we wouldn't do this move in a class, but with the wall it provides good support. So I'm going to show you first. Pyramid starts in a familiar position, so this hands on wall position. Left leg is coming forwards and right leg is coming back and aiming to scoop the chest forwards. Pregnancy adaptation is being a little higher up so there's no bump compression. From there, instead of having the feet on train tracks, I move the feet so they're in line with each other. So if I drew a line from my left heel, it would go through the center of the right arch. The left arm stays on the wall as I lift the right arm up with the aim of lengthening through this side and activating the legs. It can feel really useful. If you do not wish to use the wall, then you can work pyramid with a block, focusing on scooping the chest forward. So notice how high up I am on the block. Then when we get to stage 2, a little bend in the leg to move that foot around, and coming into triangle with a block also. So aiming that the sides of the body are long rather than being in this kind of a triangle. Looking for space and lift. So we're beginning to persuade the hamstrings and the lower back to negotiate. Alrighty. So finding the wall, if you're using that or the block, start in a feet hip distance position with hands on the wall. You can also do this with the elbows on the wall. It gets a wee bit complicated. Take the left leg forwards and the right leg back. So you're going for about a 3-foot stance. I'm assuming you've all got your measuring tapes handy. Feet are about 1 foot hip distance. Right foot is turned at an angle of about 45 degrees. Inhale, scoop your chest up towards the wall. Exhale, stick your butt out and level the left hip with the right. If you're doing this without the wall, hands can be on the block, on your thigh, or even on the floor if it's a more flexible day. Now activate your feet by pushing down into them. But instead of pushing the ground away, squeeze your left foot back towards you. So you should feel you activate the back of that left leg whilst scooping your ribs forwards. So it certainly gets a bit spicier. Those of you that are in the hypermobile end of the spectrum, soften your knee joints so they're not locked. It doesn't mean massive perceivable bends, but just a wee bit of ease. Alright, stage 2 is triangle. Soften your left leg. Take the right foot so it's now in line with your left, so you should feel like it's easy for you to stand side on. Bring the hands onto your hips. Draw your left hip towards your right. The arm distance is already going to be good. Take that left arm forwards and put it onto the wall, and then reach the right arm up. So aiming that the left hip is drawing underneath the right. Maybe you're bringing the right hand onto the hip if your shoulder is less happy with that. And you can find, like, are you able to maintain a parallel position or a straight line in that side? Some of you will be bringing the hand onto the block or the ankle and reaching the right arm up. I find the wall really useful as a reference point here because I can push the weight into my legs using that arm, and I can also relax my head onto my own arm, which is delicious. I look casual, like I'm waiting for time to pass me by. Alright, inhale, bend into your arms, bend into your legs, bring yourself up. Give your arms and your shoulders a little bit of movement because they have been fixed to the wall or static and are the weight bearing components. So if you're using the wall, getting ready for round 2, hands are on the wall, getting the chest parallel to the ground. Right foot is forward this time, left foot is back, with a 3-foot stance, and then bringing the chest almost parallel to the ground. Too spicy, hands can go further up and you can go closer to the wall. Level the pelvis, so tendency is right hip's kind of swinging out to the side. Draw it back and then stick your butt out. Do that articulation, the opposite of tuck tailbone down. Inhale, scoop the chest towards the wall. Exhale, squeeze your right leg towards the back of your mat. Now, if this is really junky on your shoulders, you can always brace your hands into your thigh. So if shoulders are less happy with the wall work, you can go for that. You're not really changing the reality for the back of that leg. Triangle. Bend the right leg. Pop your left foot so you're now turning the face a bit more side on. If you drew a line from right heel, it'll go through that left arch. With the hands on the hips, slide your right hip towards your left. Right arm is reaching out, maybe it's on the wall, maybe it's on the shin or a block. Left arm is coming up. If it's comfortable enough, you can always rest your head onto your own arm. See what works. Hypermobile, soften the knee joints. So just like pyramid, this pose is related somewhat. Using to ease out those knees so they are not snapping into that locked place. I know some movement styles are pro that. I am not. When lockdown is over, I'm happy to argue my case on that. Alright, inhale, ease yourself up from there. For the next pose, if you can do it seated with your back against the wall, you will instantly gain more support. If you don't wish to, then you can sit down, because I suppose you don't know what the pose is yet. The pose is... hang on. Armpit prep. So you can do this here. I find if you do it with your back against the wall, you can't really cheat. So the cheat that normally happens here is a scooping under the pelvis. I suppose you can still cheat while you're at the wall. You're less likely to. So I'm going to show you this side on. So cross your left foot over your right thigh. Use your hands behind you unless you're at the wall because your back's kind of got you, so your hands will be alongside you. Bend that leg up. So I like this pose to be done seated. There's lots of other ways that we do it. We've already kind of done it in the hip mobility today. Use your arms to help you get towards your sit bones, and then maybe one arm or maybe both arms take a hold of your thigh to help pull your chest into this upright position. Left foot is strongly flexing. So you might find that this pose requires from you that you are lifting your chest up the entire time. Pregnancy option, if you feel like it's getting in the way of bump, can you angle differently? If not, recreate the same pose, holding the foot, but the other leg is not in the way, because it's probably the right leg that is kind of getting in there. Inhale, lift the chest up so you get high up towards those sit bones. Exhale, draw shoulder blades back. Now there is an interesting amount of wiggle room side to side here. So see what happens when you take the hips a little bit over to the left, a little bit over to the right, and you might find a sweet spot. More flexible day. So some of you have developed your mobility here. Your left arm might come over the top of that left leg to allow you to pull. So I'm using my left hand, pulling against the shin to come up, and maybe really bringing yourself into this compact little shape. I feel like I could be folded up and placed on a little IKEA shelf. Why haven't they sponsored me yet? Ain't happening. Alright, release that leg, changing sides. So be kind to your limbs as you come out. Right foot is crossing over left. Aim to get up onto those sit bones and use your hands for good support. Start to bring that leg in. Flex the foot wherever this is getting built towards. Maybe you're holding onto the left thigh with one or both hands. Maybe it's coming in a bit more. Some of you, maybe that right arm is coming over the top. You might find because both legs are kind of getting into a flex position that you'd like the pregnancy option where you take the left leg out of the way. That might even feel like a really good shout, but make sure it doesn't travel towards dead bug range. You're still looking for a rotated positioning. Similar, so just so we're getting the same flavor. Now, I'm a big fan, even if you are very flexible, use a hand behind you to help lift up through the low spine. If you're against the wall, you can use a hand down by the sides to help lift your chest up and lean your shoulders against the wall. Feel for that little bit of range side to side, so maybe as you journey a little bit to one side and then the other, the pose reveals some other secrets. I certainly hope so. Alright, set your feet down. If you're against the wall, scuttle away from the wall a little bit, taking a little bit of that hip mobility side to side, so just exploring the difference with the work that we've been doing. So we've been doing a lot of hamstrings, inner thighs, outer thighs, rotations, leg work, lower back work. Get your chest into it, it's like really like pivot your chest. Imagine your favorite song on, you're just kind of having a groove. Like if you've seen the Madonna video Hung Up, that is you right now, your little leotard. Alright, scoot your legs out, give your legs a bit of a shuggle. It is Shavasana time, final relaxation pose. So this is the part where you get to lay down and take rest at the end of our practice, seeing as you didn't even get a restful seated time at the start. So choose a comfortable laying down position. You're welcome to use the wall if you like doing legs up to the wall stuff. So choose a position where you can be comfortable, and at the end of Shavasana, I will certainly bring you back. Begin to deepen your breath. Gradually allow yourself to become aware of the physical sensations of your practice. So simply where you feel your body heavy against the ground for now. And then recalling the areas that we've been working on. Reconnect with any of the parts that you identified that needed a wee bit of extra work today. Start to move your fingers and your toes. And then bend your legs, setting feet to the floor, and make your way towards a seated position where you are. It's the first time properly seated, exploring how the work that we've been doing has all been towards getting this pose to be comfortable, one that is frequently challenging. Bring your hands together at chest. Take a very deep breath in. Exhale, bow forwards. Namaste.